Welcome. My name is Grandma Storm. I write stories for young adults. Today I am reading chapters 11 through 15 in my book, The Book of Faith. "11. Faith sat on her stool at Pa's feet. She did not know that it was to be her last night in the cottage for a long, long time. She asked for the story about Anna. It was one of her favorites. Pa nodded. He opened the book and began to read. She knew every closet, cubbyhole, and crack in the floor, every new scuff on the stone pavement, every fresh smudge on a wall was immediately evident to her. She lived there, never leaving, for 63 years. She knew everything and everyone associated with the temple. She had known their fathers and their fathers' fathers, and even for some, their father's father's father. She knew where to hide and whom to avoid. She knew who was kind and who was cruel. Those with ordinary eyes saw an old woman, emaciated and bent, her gray hair crazily twisted on a stick. To them, she was as insignificant as a spider on the wall. Those with more perceptive eyes caught a glimpse of a proud daughter of a noble clan. For them, she was respected and an object of alms. There were very few of those kinds of eyes. Many thought the oddest thing about Anna was her claim that she served a king. They laughed. They looked for the king. He was not there. There was only the dear queen. Anna explained to those who would listen, her life was given to the kingdom of the future, in the realm of the eternal. Anna was a prophetess, but few understood this. To a prophetess, time is jumbled. The past, present, and future are all one living reality. A prophetess sees the march of history like ordinary men see a range of mountains. Looking at them, it is not clear which mountain is in front of the other, but there is no denying the mountains are there. Time is a moving dimension, changing and shifting. Place is certain. That is why, in all those years, she never left the temple. At any moment, he could appear. Crazy old Anna, when nothing else was around to amuse, lazy loiterers mocked her. If asked when her so-called potentate would pop in, Anna answered with shining eyes, "It could be today." If asked where this king might magically appear, she gladly answered, "Right here." She always said the same thing. They thought she was stupid. They thought stupid was funny. Anna knew each day's sunrise brought his arrival closer. Her father read it to her a long time ago in his book. She still possessed it. She hid it where no one could find it. Yet reading the book, she was not sure what form her king would take. A mighty warrior, a commanding ruler, a creature beyond imagination. Her king could be any of these and more. All she knew was, when she saw him, she would know him. In the watches of the night, when the cold air bit through her rags and the stone floor offered no comfort, she reminisced of days gone by. The land basked in the heat of the morning sun. Anna played under the protection of her favorite tree in her father's vast olive grove. She had brown curly hair, brown eyes, and was exactly 6½ years old. Her father, the master of the grove, told her the olive tree was 1,000 years old and was the mother of all the other trees in the grove. Anna had no living mother, so she called the ancient olive her mothering tree. Under its boughs, she kept a collection of pretty pebbles, colorful feathers, hollow gourds, bunches of dried herbs, cracked bird eggs, and an old mat on which to sit to watch the clouds and dream. All the servants knew this was her hideaway. During olive harvest, they were careful to never disturb her nest. The grove was in the family for generations. The oil from the olives was used exclusively in the temple of the dear queen city of Tophet to light the lamps. The monopoly made her father a wealthy man. 9 years passed. The master was richer than ever. His only child was now a young woman. He raised her in all the customs of his clan. Not only was she beautiful, but she was gracious in manner and wise beyond her years. He was the last of an ancient lineage. Only his daughter remained. After his death, the clan could be thrown into turmoil. He must arrange her union to a good man. Fathers with eligible sons inquired about joining their families through marriage. They thought only of the prosperous trade and little about the young woman. She was pretty, yes, but mere chattel. But there was one thing unsettling about Anna. When suitors heard about it, it gave them pause. She had visions. She talked about a king. They already had a ruler, the dear queen. The dear queen was not loved, but she was feared. If Anna kept talking about some unknown king, there would be trouble. All that beautiful fortune could be forfeit. The crowd of suitors melted away. One day, a stranger arrived with his flock of sheep. He was strongly built, ruddy and tall. He came to inquire if the master was interested in any of his stock. Soon business was concluded to mutual satisfaction. Anna's father liked this stranger. He asked him to stay for refreshment. The master inquired of the stranger's father and his clan. The stranger was of respectable family and considerate manner. Would the young man work in the olive grove? The shepherd set aside his staff to serve the master of the olive grove. Within a year, he was directing the laborers, keeping the accounts, and planning new ventures. He cared for all things with honesty and diligence. For the master, the concerns of earth faded. He sat with his beloved Anna in the shade of the ancient olive tree and read his book to her. With knowledge beyond words, Anna knew this man was to be her husband. She waited for her father to understand this also. One spring, the marriage took place under the mothering tree. 7 years passed by, saddened only by the passing of Anna's father. Anna's visions grew stronger. She knew she was not where she was meant to be. What if she missed her king? She struggled with staying. This land, this life, this olive grove were all she had ever known. Something powerful was pulling her away. She could neither resist nor stop what was about to happen. A trip to the temple was required to sell lamp oil. Her husband asked Anna to go with him. Before she left, she went to her mothering tree and broke off a stick. With it, she pinned up her cascading brown hair. She bundled a pack with cloaks, coin, and her father's book, took her husband's hand, and walked away. Anna brightened with the trip. No vision disturbed her. The oils sold for a higher price than expected. Standing together, they gazed at the splendor of the marble temple as the oil from their groves illumined the sanctuary. As they descended the stairs in search of an inn, 6 men approached. The men smiled and bowed. They paid the pair compliments. They were going to a banquet. Would the man come and discuss business with them? Anna's husband accepted. An inn was found, and Anna was left in the care of the innkeeper and his wife. She bade her husband good night and retired. In the darkest hour of the night, the innkeeper's wife pounded on Anna's door. Unbolting the lock, she screamed at Anna, "Get out! You and your husband have brought trouble with you. Get out! Get out!" Anna sat up and numbly gazed at the woman. "Get out before I turn the dogs on you." Fully awake, Anna dressed, grabbed her pack, and ran from the inn. Outside, she mixed with a crowd carrying torches. Voices talked of a condemned man at the temple. Her heart raced. Her mind jumped to her husband. Joining the rabble, she ran to the temple. "Treason! Treason!" chanted the mob. "Hang him!" shrieked others. "Great is the dear queen! Great is the dear queen! Great is the dear queen!" thundered the multitude. Anna pushed closer. A platform supporting a raw scaffold stood before the golden doors. And she saw him, her beloved. He stood tall, his hands bound. A scarlet-robed man, his face hidden by a deep hood, stood beside him, loudly reading from a scroll. "The accused refuses to acknowledge the lawful dear queen. The accused consults with false prophets. The accused says a king is coming. Are there any witnesses?" 6 men stepped forward. Anna gasped. They were the men who invited her husband to the banquet. She stood, rooted and mute, paralyzed by the nightmare. With oily voices, the men told rotting lies. The crowd soaked in the poison of their deceit. When they could invent no more lies, Anna's voice rang out high and clear. "It is true, the king is coming." The crowd swung to her voice. The scarlet-robed man screamed, "Take her!" As hands groped for Anna, a mighty rushing wind lifted her and hurled her toward the temple. Of their own accord, the golden doors swung open, pulling Anna within. The doors slammed shut. Anna was saved within sanctuary. Sanctuary was law. This law was deeper than the laws of the dear queen. Decades drifted by. Anna sat in the spring sunshine of the outer court, watching the crowd. Her rags fluttered about her. Her gray hair was twisted with a stick. Something stirred. A vision pulled her. Was it? Yes, she could see him. She knew him as she always knew she would. Her king was here. Running was hard for the old knees, but her heart felt so young. She hurried to a couple with a newborn baby. Her king was a baby. She laughed out loud. A baby! She had never been sure what form he would take, but now, of course, a baby. The young mother had a kind heart and allowed the old woman to hold her precious son. "The king has come to his temple," Anna shouted. "The king has come to his temple. He is here." A crowd began to form. The young mother stared at Anna, took back her son, and looked with wonder into his peaceful face. Anna ran over the temple, telling men the king was there. "Where is he?" They looked for a proud man in royal robes, surrounded by courtiers, soldiers, and slaves. Anna pointed instead at a common babe swaddled in rags, held by a humble woman. "What?" Crazy old Anna. Most returned to whatever it was they came to the temple to do. A few wondered and made note of the young couple. The parents of the baby boy had come to the temple to sanctify their firstborn, as prescribed in the book. The father carried a small cage. Inside was a turtle dove for the required sacrifice. 12. "Faith, wake up." Faith heard rain hitting the roof. Snuggling deeper into her quilts, she drifted back to sleep. "Faith, wake up." Gently, Theophilus pulled back the covers and helped his little girl to her feet. He slipped her blouse and woolen skirt over her head and found her clogs. He wrapped her in a cloak, picked her up, and carried her to the door. He had a pack on his back and a long knife strapped to his belt. Faith yawned. "What are we doing, Pa?" "We are going to get Sonia and cross the river." "What? Why?" "I will tell you later." Faith yawned again. "Where is Anna?" "Here, wrapped in a cloth. She is all right. Hold her." Theophilus opened the door to the rainy night. He picked up 2 bundles and an iron-tipped staff. As he pulled the door closed, he thought, there is no reason to lock it. Whoever came to search the cottage would only break it open. No sense someone ruining a perfectly good door. Remember, not a sound. Faith awoke as rain hit her face. Then she remembered the talk of a few days earlier and held Anna closer. Theophilus entered the shed, slipped a halter over Sonia's head, and tied a lead line to it. Strapping a girth under her belly, he secured the bundles across her back. At the river's edge, he picked up Faith and pulled on Sonia's lead. Sonia planted her hooves in the mud. She reviewed the list of the night's indignities. She was awakened from a sound sleep. Bundles were loaded on her back, and a girth strap pulled tight. She was led into a rain-soaked night. Now she was being asked to wade into the river. She sucked in air to unleash a mighty hee-haw when she caught a whiff of something rotten. If evil had a smell, that was it. Her big ears swiveled and picked up an equally suspicious snort. Suddenly, she thought getting in the river and getting to the other side was a very good idea. She plunged in, yanking the lead out of Pa's hand. Sonia did not know what stench she smelled and what snort she heard, but the source was Old Scratch. 13. A drizzly dawn revealed a damp fog, chilling tree, stone, and beast. Pulling back a tarp, Old Scratch dragged himself upright and began his morning ritual. He pulled off his boots and scratched his toes, moved to his nose, then his backside, and finally the greasy red mop on top of his head. He pulled on his boots, smacked his lips, and pondered his empty stomach. He remembered he was supposed to be watching something. Oh, yeah, that old miller and the girl. Geez, what a dumb job, he muttered. Old Scratch could see the cottage, but he was sure he was hidden from view. He prided himself on being a sneak. Nothing exciting was going on at that place. Those two, the old miller and the girl, were as predictable as rain. They did the same boring things every day. Maybe Skiva would get here soon, take the girl, and pay him. When he first contracted the authorities, the Brown Leathers, about the girl, he was given a gold ribbon to tag her after capture. Standard procedure, all legal, just a means of giving proper credit. All part of best legal practices developed under the guidance of the dear Queen's accountants. Old Scratch failed to tag the prey. The Brown Leathers were not pleased. They told him keepers were informed. They decided, since he failed, the case was to be handled by a certain Skiva. Old Scratch was to spy and report, that was all. Once the girl was secured, he would get paid. Maybe that Skiva was coming today. At any rate, nobody would leave a snug cottage in this weather. I bets they'd be sitting down to some old yucky porridge, mumbled Old Scratch. Never could stand the stuff. Thinking about porridge made him want to spit, so he spat. Scooting under the tarp, he pulled out a dark bottle and a hunk of cheese. Old Scratch swallowed the cheese, swirled the bottle, popped the cork, put the bottle to his lips, and chugged. Misery, misery, spat Old Scratch when the bottle yielded its last drop. Well, that's begone for sure. He was about to begin his after-breakfast scratching when a thought struck him. Nothing was happening at the cottage. The old man had not opened the mill. The girl had not let the donkey out of the shed. Because of the rain, maybe their routine was different. Then he noticed what was not there. No smoke rose from the chimney. He thought he was pretty smart for noticing something that wasn't there. Old Scratch decided to investigate. He would just pretend he was stopping by for a friendly visit. Nothing wrong with that. Hitching up his pants and starting off with a swagger, he sauntered to the mill. No sign of the old miller. Hello, called Old Scratch. Anybody here? No answer. Old Scratch opened the mill door. Nobody. Whistling a casual tune, he meandered to the cottage. It was closed and dark. This is stupid, muttered Old Scratch. Why'd they have to go and do a disappearing act? He gave his nose a good scratch, saying aloud, Halloo! And knocked. Silence. Screwing up his courage, he put his hand on the latch and gave the door a timid push. It swung open, creaking on its hinges. That spooked him. Maybe somebody crept in and slit their throats, pondered Old Scratch. Maybe somebody clubbed the old man and stole the girl. Maybe Skiva done been here already. Anybody home? Nothing. The shutters were bolted. The hearth was cold. For sure they must be dead. At least the old man, whimpered Old Scratch. Maybe they're ghosts just waiting for me to come in so they can chop off my head. A fresh wind sang through the bare branches of the wood like bellows in a pipe organ. The dissonance reverberated inside the empty cottage and entered the fuzzy ears and addled brain of Old Scratch. He seized up, turned a sick shade of gray, and took to his heels. 14. Skiva was not happy. Actually, Skiva was never happy. Today was no exception. He was delayed by the fuss at court, ceremonies, speeches, and parades, pandering to inflated egos. To one inflated ego in particular, kept him from what they demanded be done. He hated the people to whom he must bow. He hated that they would never soil their delicate lily-white hands. He hated the dear Queen most of all. Everyone hated the dear Queen, but no one dare admit it. No one breathed a treasonous word or shared a treasonous thought. To hint at criticism of the dear Queen meant a trip to the camps. Every communication, written or spoken, even the most mundane, must be garnished with praise for the dear Queen. In the villages, a man might say to his neighbor, "The weather is good for going to market. Thanks to the wisdom of our dear Queen, our commerce is the economic engine of the world." A woman speaking to her neighbor might say, "Tomorrow we attend the monthly performance to honor the dear Queen's rule. The dear Queen provides all we need. She is as a mother to us all in her magnanimity and intelligence." Her neighbor would reply, "Of course! I wrote a poem praising our dear Queen for the occasion. It is all about the cabbages from my garden and how big they grow. I talk to them every day about our dear Queen. Just mentioning her name makes them grow. We are the most fortunate people to be ruled by our dear Queen." In Topeth, the capital, people gathered at a towering statue erected to honor the dear Queen, bringing gifts, even the cabbages, to lay at its feet. They returned to their villages telling everyone how blessed they were. Anyone listening would quickly agree. They had to. The man or woman who did not play this game simply disappeared and was quietly forgotten. We are all perfect hypocrites, thought Skiva, continually performing to please her every whim. Well, living hypocrites at least. Skiva could sing the highest praise of the Queen and lie like the devil. He enjoyed lying. He would invent the most outlandish fables about the greatness of the dear Queen. With a dark look, he dared the hearer to contradict him. No one ever did. They all wished they could lie like him. In fine clothes, Skiva cut an elegant figure. He was pale, tall, with a pointy black beard and piercing black eyes. With a flourish and a sweep, his bows to his superiors were a gratifying performance. His obeisance always ended with a flash of big white teeth on his upturned face. The grand people of the court saw a subservient smile. If they dared look into his eyes, they would have seen his soul. It was as black as death. Now he had to travel as the rains began. That disgusting old Scratch had better be right. The reporting sighting of the little girl was on the border, on the dear Queen's domain by the river Chabar. He acquired a mount from the brown leathers and galloped for the frontier. Beyond the city, villages were crumbling into dust. People, old, bent, and tired, gaped with open mouths as he thundered past. As night approached, he was assured of shelter for himself and his horse. The simple villagers bowed and scraped, awed by his presence and terrified of his eyes. There were no smiles for these fools. They feared the dear queen, and they feared him who was sent by her. He demanded the best of every village, and they gave it. Beyond the villages were the camps. He had once seen the outside of the camps, but hoped never to see the inside. Skiva brought one companion. He was powerfully built with a short, thick neck supporting a broad, flat head. 4 sinewy legs upheld a thick body. The creature was covered in dull gray hair, with a mane spiked over his backbone. But it was the merciless eyes and the long fangs that made Kur deadly. With such a beast, Skiva need fear no man. With such a hound, Skiva could track anyone, anywhere. 15. Theophilus breathed easier when he found a faint track. If memory served, it should lead to the trail for the lone pass through the mountains. He hoped the provisions would last. If not, he was confident he could live off the land. He had done it before. He reviewed his assets as they hiked. The donkey was a sturdy creature able to carry heavy packs for miles. She could forage for her own food and did not need much water. Sonia also had excellent senses of smell and hearing. Any unease on her part could alert her to possible danger. The turtle dove could fly and see far. She too could live off the land. Other than a comfort to Faith, he was not sure what part the bird would play. But he would not leave her to the mercy of those coming to the cottage by the mill. The girl was raised in the fresh air of the wood and provided with food that built a sturdy body. With sensible care, she should remain healthy. He considered 2 more assets, the iron-tipped staff and the long knife. At one time, he was quite expert to aid a friend or defeat a foe. His final asset was the book. "Pa, my legs won't go anymore," declared Faith with a sigh. He noted the sun sat low in the sky. Smiling, he said, "Good time to stop. Let's camp here." He built a shelter of branches close to the trunk of a huge tree. Man, girl, donkey, and dove settled in for the night. Faith snuggled close and pillowed her head on Sonia's belly. Pa draped a blanket over them. "Faith?" "Yes?" "I am taking you to see friends of mine." She sighed. "Yes, Pa." And with that whisper, she was asleep. He listened to her soft breathing and contemplated the journey ahead. He looked at Sonia. Her big ears were turning this way and that. She was listening to sounds he could not hear. He knew she would keep the first watch of the night. With that assurance, he was asleep. Thank you for listening. To hear more of the story, please come back soon, or you may purchase your own copy on Amazon. Just follow the link below. Until next time.